Are live.
Yay! Oh, this is when I talk. Okay. Wow, welcome to another Outspoken Samantha show. And I have got my diversity hire, Joe Mobley, with me today.
Yes.
So
Thank
we
you.
are we are making sure that we are DEI and ESG compliant. So we have hit all the boxes. Um,
Thanks for
we've got a
letting
lot
me
to talk
on. I
about.
know I'm not qualified, but you were
But
incentivized to bringing me into your show.
it's true. But at least we're honest about why you're here. So
Companies try
I
so hard to be like, just so you know, we're not promoting you or hiring you because you're black. It's like, of course you are. Of course
yeah.
you are. Are you kidding?
And if
Yeah.
you have to say, like, I'm not hiring you because you're black, or I'm not hiring you because you're a woman, there's a really good chance that you're hiring somebody because they're black or hiring somebody because they're a woman. So it's usually best just not to mention it. So I just provided an example of what not to do. But we do have a lot to talk about tonight. I think we're going to kind of go all over the place, but we're going to talk about Trump and this indictment because we have to. We're going to talk about some culture issues because, as much as I personally, and I think Joe probably thinks relatively similarly on this, I personally like talking about policy things that are happening, with what candidates think, what's going on in the country, what's being passed in legislation. But either fortunately or unfortunately, so much of what we think and how our country is led right now is really determined on our culture and what ideas are being put out there and who is leading the culture war. So we have to touch on those issues. We've also got some big news in the trans community, the trans area. We've got some Second Amendments. I think there's only one. The Second Amendment issue, and we are going to be talking about Ben and Jerry's versus the Native Americans. If that is not random enough for you,
Saying it like that makes it the ultimate random cherry on top.
Ben and Jerry takes on the Native Americans.
Yeah, are they still alive or like did they kick the bucket?
Ben and Jerry's or the Native Americans?
The Ben and Jerry.
Sometimes I wonder. I don't know. I still see their stuff in the store. And what was the first what was the first controversial thing that they did? Because it was a while ago, but they've definitely gone completely woke. So I
Oh,
haven't
Ben and
purchased
Jerry's?
it.
Goodness gracious. I mean, what haven't they done? They provide massive amounts of funding to abortion. They've all
Mhm.
obviously Ben and Jerry are gay, so they've always been like down with the community. They were the community before the community was the community.
Right.
But post George Floyd, they have a social justice ice cream. Now, I'm not being pejorative and making fun of them. It's called like Ben and Jerry's Social Justice. It's got like Ruth Bader Ginsburg on it and like handcuffs and all of this nonsense. Oh
Right.
man, let me see if I can find. They have some funny
What?
stuff. Like they have a Netflix and chill ice cream, which is pretty funny.
Gosh.
Uh,
Oh my God. I don't know about the social justice ice cream. I feel like that would just make you miserable and lost. I don't know. Yeah, I think I remember them starting to really hit the headlines with the George Floyd issue and sharing their opinions on things. And it's like, just make ice cream, like stick to what you know, because I don't care what you think. But
yeah. Wow, they have so
unfortunately,
many. They have Resist over here. What the? This is the one that I was talking about. It's got like a mob and like fist and stuff. But this one looks pretty scary too. Resist? Like, I don't know.
huh,
Anyway,
I don't know. I feel like I mean, They should have like an ice, I don't know, with the mob. I thought you said, did you say mob fist?
Yeah, here, look. Let me see if I can zoom in.
Sorry, my brain just caught up. I'm like, wait a second.
Yeah, it's got like, I'm sorry, not a mob. I'll say protesters. Yeah,
I
but
was
it,
gonna say, wouldn't that have like graffiti on the side of it or
yeah, it's basically like ice cream wielding Antifa out here. So,
anyway?
ooh, cinnamon and chocolate
Okay,
ice
well, we'll
cream
get
with
to
God.
Oh my gosh. I just can't. Yeah. So this is why I don't know anything about what's happening with Ben and Jerry's because I just stopped buying their stuff a long time ago. I'm not interested. Um, but I think the big story of the day clearly, wait, what the story should be is the Devon Archer interview with Hunter, but since that just happened, they had to indict Trump. Like they knew that was coming, so they're like, how do we distract people from what's going on with Hunter Biden? They're like, oh, let's do another thing with Trump. Let's throw another thing on the plate. So, do you want to introduce us to what's going on here?
Yeah, I I hate to do this to the audience, but I had to watch it twice. So I just want us to watch this clip. It's a little bit longer. It's a 2-minute clip, but it is such a picture perfect piece of propaganda. That was not supposed to be alliteration, but it is. It's a picture perfect propaganda piece. So let's
Awesome.
I'll try not to talk over it, but this guy, I'll just roll it.
My name is Eric Tucker, and I cover the FBI, Justice Department, and national security for the Associated Press. Former President Donald Trump has just been indicted in connection with his efforts to overturn the 2020 presidential election. Now, this is an episode in modern American history that's been the subject of public hearings and long-running investigations. For the first time, we now have criminal charges related to a 2-month effort by Trump and his allies to help him cling to power and to undo the results of the presidential election that he lost to Democrat Joe Biden. Here's what we know. This is an indictment that focuses on a very turbulent period between his November 2020 loss to Democrat Joe Biden and the January 6, 2021 riot at the Capitol. And this indictment alleges that Donald Trump lost the election and knew that he lost the election, but nonetheless for 2 months engaged in repeated scheme after scheme to work to overturn the results so that he could cling to power. It alleges that he enlisted a variety of aides and advisors in these different schemes and turned aside advice from other aides who said, you have to tell the truth, you lost. The indictment also includes some new details. It describes handwritten notes from former Vice President Mike Pence. It also says that Trump sought to exploit the chaos of January 6, 2021 by suggesting that the counting of electoral votes should be further delayed until everyone had cleared out of the building.
I can't finish out the whole thing. But to put a fine point on it, what we just watched together was pure propaganda brought to you by the Associated Press, apnews.com. And if you are learned in propaganda techniques at all, you can really see it in the person that they chose to make the video. Kind of he didn't have the stupid anchor news voice, but kind of this unimposing, you can trust us type figure. But he kept saying things the exact same way over and over again. Like when he would say Trump lost the presidential election, he would keep saying it. And, Democrat Joseph Biden, like the Democrat Biden victory, like it just kept like peppering it in there. Like, I'm going to say it more. Dude, it's 2023, okay? You guys need to be secure. Like, they're so insecure. They're like, every chance we get, we have to say that our guy won, just so people believe it. Now,
Right.
we're on YouTube. We're not gonna, say anything to get Samantha's channel thrown out here. But what they're alleging, and we got the indictment right here. Don't have to use your imagination, folks. Conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, obstruction and attempt to obstruct an official proceeding, and conspiracy against rights. That one I had to pull up, Title 18, United States Code, Section 241, because that just sounded super strange. Conspiracy against rights. But if you read this thing, I've read almost all of it. It's 45 pages. When you issue an indictment, this is the most scathing charges that you can bring. And the way that you write an indictment is the big one first. So if someone killed 5 people, robbed a bank, and stole grandma's purse, you put it in that order. You'd say, you killed these 5 people, and you robbed this bank, and you stole this lady's purse. That's how you write an indictment, folks. You put the sexiest thing up top. This is the thing that we got him for. And it's nothing. They're saying the big crime is you said that you won an election when you knew. He has to say the words. Donald Trump knew he lost, because there's this thing in the law. It's called mens rea, and it means, if you've ever seen on a TV show, they say it's not enough that we have the evidence. It's not enough that we have video. It's not enough that we have the suspect under arrest. We need to know why they committed the crime. If you don't have a motive, it's hard to convict someone. It's hard to convict them because someone who almost failed out of law school, like Joe Biden, knows that you need mens rea. You need the reason the person committed the crime, the knowledge of evil, I think is what the Latin is. So they have to know that they're breaking the law. They have to know that they are doing the wrong thing while they're doing it. Donald Trump believed that he won the election. Hey, I can say Joe Mobley believed that Donald Trump won the election. I still might. I don't know if we're allowed to say those things on YouTube. But that's not a crime. That's constitutionally protected activity. I can think, I can say, and I can believe, like Hillary Clinton did, like Stacey Abrams did, like what's his face, Hanging Chad's guy, Al Gore did. All of the Democrats who have lost and a handful of Republicans who have lost have believed and publicly stated that their elections were stolen. And they're trying to say that that's illegal and conspiracy to all this other crap.
Yeah.
I don't think it goes anywhere.
No, I don't think so either. And I mean, to your point where, you're writing an indictment and it's got to be like, it's a big deal. And I think that, that's part of the thing that just blows my mind about this is how much of a mockery the justice system is right now. Like, we're just throwing out indictments for anything. Like, we're just throwing out charges. We're just like threatening to arrest people. And it's to the point where we have far too many people that don't really care whether or not we're actually breaking any laws or if there is any actual offenses committed. I mean, they see this. Well, I think most of the people that think Donald Trump is actually being indicted on legitimate causes actually haven't read this thing. And I did sit down and read most of it as well. But they actually think that somebody saying that that the election was stolen, or saying that they believe they won the election, they think that that's a legitimate crime. And that's, I think that's a product of our education system. That's been a product of dumbing people down. It's been a product of repeated propaganda, repeating ideas over and over and over again until they just become true. And people are so willing to see this man go to jail just for saying that he believed that he won the election, just for saying that, hey, we need to look into this.
But
and
Samantha,
by the way, guys,
he knew he lost. Look, it says it right in the indictment. The defendant knew that they were false statements. Give me a break.
And and so we've got to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt. How do you go about doing that? How do you prove beyond a reasonable doubt with every single one of these jurors that he knew that he wasn't telling the truth, or he knew that, this was all a lie and he was misleading people? Like,
What's the questioning going to be like? Mr. Trump, isn't it true that you knew that you lost the election? No. What are they going to drill down on? No, you
right.
knew. No.
Yeah, exactly.
And I still
Yeah.
think that I won
Well,
because I did. That's what he's going to say. I'm thinking, like, look, he's doing it
exactly.
again. And it's like, he believes that. And what about
Yeah.
Hillary Clinton? If this is high crimes and misdemeanors, what about Hillary Clinton? Or
Yeah.
Stacey Abrams? Stacey Abrams is famous for having lost an election and roll around the country saying that she won it and it was stolen.
Yeah. Well, and I think, as much as bring up those examples, because there's numerous examples of the Democrat Party spending years saying that, Donald Trump didn't win the 2016 election, that Hillary Clinton should have won, and Hillary herself, like interview after interview after interview, saying that she had the election stolen from her. The whole point is that, as obnoxious as it was to hear Stacey Abrams say, "Hey, I'm really the governor of Georgia," or Hillary Clinton saying, "Hey, the election was stolen from me," as annoying as it was, nobody was saying Stacey Abrams and Hillary Clinton belong in jail for those things. Like,
Nope.
they're allowed to run around and say that as much as they want, and it didn't even cross anybody's mind to say they need to be arrested, put handcuffs on them. And that is not the country that we want to be living in. But unfortunately, there are too many people that are going to have to learn that the hard way, and by the time we get to that point, we're not going to be able to turn it around.
Another thing that the guy said in the video was, and you're right, it was very annoying to hear her say she was the governor. But another thing the guy said in the video is he was so careful about his words. He said, he had these advisors who were lying to him, saying the same thing that he was saying, that he won the election. And he ignored the advice of advisors who said, you lost, you should say that you lost. Those advisors who were named with their positions in this not affidavit, in this indictment, those were his lawyers. So just so everyone knows how this works, if FBI knocks on the door and they say you're under arrest because you committed this crime, I might get 1, 2, I might get 5 attorneys. If I have 4 attorneys and 3 of them say, these are our ideas about how to prove you're innocent of this crime, how to prove that, you didn't do this. And then one of them says, you should plead guilty and throw in the towel. That guy's fired, but they can't come back and say, you ignored the counsel of these advisors. Like, no, this guy was a bozo. This guy was like, admit to the crime that you didn't commit. So he got fired, and now you're going to use him in the indictment.
Yeah.
Give me a break.
It's absolutely insane. And just reading through this indictment, it's like they're describing the exact behavior of the Democrat Party.
Because they are.
Yeah. I'm just trying to skim it right now, but the gist of it is that they want to criminalize the fact that he opposed the election, and they want people to believe that that's a legitimate lawsuit, that that's a legitimate criminal charge. Like, that's the only thing that they have. Because I don't know when they say that, I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. Did you watch the video of his attorney speaking on, I don't know what channel, but she was addressing reporters?
No.
No, they were asking, one of the reporters asked her, like, do you think he's going to talk about the election being stolen in 2020? And she's like, that's not even the question here. Why are we even? So, again, they're trying to get him to repeat, to be this election denier. But she also pointed out that I completely just lost my train of thought, guys.
Here, while you think of that, I did think that this Brett Tolman series of tweets was really interesting. Here, let's see if we can zoom on in. Not a huge account, but a good account to follow. He says, I've read the new indictment twice, and it's criminalizing speech, thought, and legal positions, whether they're right or wrong, and disinformation. He's absolutely right. That's what the indictment is. It's criminalizing speech, saying you can't say this, you can't think that, and then legal positions. Lawyers always have a legal position. They either say plead guilty or plead not guilty. Say that you did it or say that you didn't do it. Like, those are the only two options.
Right.
It also is shockingly manipulative of statutes and theories which require enormous legal wrangling. Now, I don't know this man, but when I read that last part, it's very manipulative of the different statutes, and these theories are going to require enormous wrangling, because to say that someone told a lie about anything, and to say in court that they knew at the time that they lied, you really need like one of those precogs from Minority Report to even prove that. Like, what are you going to call to the stand? A psychic? A telepath? A mind reader? Like, to be like, now this is our expert mind reader. Tell the jury that you know that Donald Trump knew that he was lying, and that expert will say, yes, he knew.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, that's just it. There's no way to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt what someone thought. So and the thing I was going to talk about with her, with the attorney was, one of the reporters asked her, well, this is based on his actions to try and overturn the election, or his actions to try and, switch votes and whatnot. And she's like, what actions are you talking about? And of course they didn't have an answer. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what action. I mean, maybe I missed it, but in the indictment, but I don't know what actions they're talking about, because you have a right to bring cases, to ask for recounts, to bring your attorneys in if you think there was fraudulent activity. I mean, everything that he did was legally and lawfully done. I mean, perhaps this activity would have been more familiar to the left if we had just started burning things down.
Whoa, don't say that. Well, folks, if you were excited about the indictment, here are some things that you won't find in the indictment. You won't find treason. You won't find sedition. You won't find anything about trying to overthrow the United States government, usurping or supplanting democracy. You won't find any of those things, because they're not in there, because the Justice Department is not allowed, at least yet, to put false statements in an actual indictment. That would be a crime. So any of the things that they'll say on CNN tonight, right now while we're talking, they're saying on CNN that he's committed treason and sedition, and they're going to be pulling out some of the craziest and most heinous crimes that someone could commit against their own government. None of those things are in the indictment. It's a he said. It's not even he said, she said. It's just like he said, he thought crimes, I guess. Now they're trying not to say thought crimes, because that kind of reeks of like communists, murdering 200 million people or whatever. But these are thought crimes. They're trying to convict him of thought crimes, and
I think
your thoughts were bad.
Yeah, and I think one of the charges, they say they want to charge him with incitement as well, but that's not even in the indictment. All of these things that they're bringing up, saying they want to charge him with, none of it is in there.
They tried incitement for like 4 months after January 6th.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can. They can say whatever they want.
And we can sit and laugh about it, but it really is scary stuff in a lot of ways. And I mean, I don't think it goes anywhere. I don't see how they can actually put him in prison for anything. I mean, they could, but then we're into really scary territory at that point.
This is, you know who we need to lock up? We need to lock up prosecutors that bring frivolous charges, and we need to lock up judges. Like, not saying this is a conspiracy, folks, but it's a little bit of a sham that the judge assigned to this case is the only judge of all the judges who have heard J6 cases that have gone against the recommendation of the actual prosecutor, the United States Justice Department, and increased the sentence. The only that super evil judge is the only one. They're like, oh yeah, she can have it. She's a black woman, so you know how it is. We gotta we gotta have representation. Give
Right,
me a
exactly.
freaking break. I
Yeah,
think it'll
she
be
will be.
fun TV though if they televise it. It'll be like Amber Heard again. It'll be like, you know, it'll be like when I'm president, you're fired. Like, yeah, it'll be fun.
All right. Well, we'll see what happens with that. I actually hope that more people start talking about Hunter Biden, and that we don't allow the mainstream media to tell us what to talk about and what to think about, because I am way more interested in what's happening there. Of course, I'm interested in the Trump indictment, but we've got to pay attention to the mountain of evidence
Let's be
that is
honest.
continuing to pile up. Huh?
Let's be honest. This dude just brought crack to the White House. Like, no one wants to talk about that. Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, how about we go on to this whole culture situation? You have a couple of really interesting and fun videos that I think might be a little bit mind bending, but let's have a look.
My mouse just stopped working. Not so magic. Let's see. Wake up, little mouse. Okay. It's back alive. All right. Well, which one first?
So we've got a couple of things here, and these are, I think, just really interesting reels. The first one, let's talk about the victimhood one, the victim mentality. And I think it's important to, I don't know, have a conversation about this, because I've done a couple of videos on this realm recently.
Yeah, I think this one is my favorite. Let's see.
Did an experiment with a group of women, and they put scars on their faces, and they told these women that they're going into a job interview, and the purpose of the experiment is to find out whether people with facial disfigurements face discrimination. They showed them the scars in the mirror. The women saw themselves with these scars, and as they led them out of the room, they said, we're just going to touch it up a little bit. And as they touched it up, they removed the scarring completely. So the women went into the job interview thinking that they are scarred, but actually being their normal selves. And the result of the experiment is that those women then came back reporting massively increased level of discrimination. Indeed, many of them came back with comments that the interviewer had made that they felt were referencing their arguments. And this is why I think the ideology of victimhood is so dangerous, because if you preach to people constantly that we're all oppressed, then that primes people to look for that. They did an experiment with a group of...
He's not wrong.
No, I completely agree with that. And I think it's an interesting experiment, but I think it explains a lot about how we can have so much division in America, where you have people that really still adhere to this idea that we all have so much potential, and we're all so much more than, just one piece of our identity, and we're all human beings, and we have all of these things that we can do, and we really believe in in the principles of America and what it allows us to do as human beings. And then you have these other people over here that are just constantly looking for ways to be the biggest victim. It's almost like a competition, like how can we be a victim? And they go out into their daily lives, and they're just looking for ways that someone says something or looks at them a certain way or treats them a certain way, and they try to use it to their advantage. But you could put two of us in the same situation and have completely different perspectives on it. It really is about what you're looking for.
Yep. What you look for, what you focus on, you'll find. And I think there are a lot of people in that boat. I think there are other people in the boat of they're just lying. there are a lot of black people lying about the experience of being black. There's LeBron James saying, I can't walk outside my house. Dude, you're freaking huge, massive. Everyone's afraid of you because you're like, you know, the big gorilla in the jungle. Everyone knows, like, if you go up to this dude, he gets to decide if you live or die. Like, he gets to decide if he wants to be bothered by you. It's not because you're black, it's because of your physical attributes. And he's gonna lie and say that he's scared every time he leaves his billion-dollar home because he doesn't know if he's ever gonna return back to it. Like, give me a break. Give me a break. That's just a lie. The same thing with the black dude that plays Randall in This Is Us. Like, oh my gosh, after George Floyd lied, that actor was the worst. The things that he was like tweeting out about it, I'm like, cry me a river, dude. I've been black my whole life. I don't know if you know that. And it's not that bad. It's not like being a Jew in Nazi Germany or, you know, being an Israelite in ancient Egypt. It's a lot better.
Right. Yeah.
Why?
Well, and I mean, it's annoying because, you know, those of us that are sane and that we, you know, we don't take everything personally. And I think a lot of us, when we see, you know, if someone's rude to me or they mistreat me or whatever, a lot of us are able to just let those things go. We don't take it personally. We realize that, you know, that kind of treatment is far more about that, who that person is.
Yeah, that person's a butthole. You just say that person's a butthole.
And that has nothing to do with me. You know, they can call me names or whatever. But it's everything about them. It has nothing to do with me. And I'm not going to let it affect my life or my day or my mood or anything. But then you have these people that if you tell them that, you know, having scars on their face or telling them that being black or telling them that being a woman makes them inferior in some way, then that is the way that they're going to perceive everything that is said to them. And it really does take away from how we were meant to live in America. We're meant to live to our full potential. We're meant to, you know, view each other as complete and whole human beings capable of anything. But of course, this victimhood mentality just completely takes away from that. And people spend all of their time and energy, you know, focusing on everything that's wrong and then trying to blame other people so that the problem never, ever gets fixed. Because if you walk around waiting for other people to fix what's wrong, then it's never going to get fixed because you can't control what other people do. So it just makes people miserable. So it's sad. Did you see that TikTok video of the gal that I did a video on it where she got mad at her employer for not making exceptions for her time blindness?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to Google time blindness to see what it was.
It's an actual thing.
I used to think that my wife had time blindness because because she'd be like, I have to do this, this, and this. That should take 6 minutes. And I'm like, no, that takes 12 minutes.
That takes 2 hours.
Yeah. Oh, we should have time for this, this, and this. Like, we do not have time for that.
Well, and I mean, I am late all the time for everything, all the time. But it's my own fault. And I know that, like, it's nobody else's fault. And if I walked into my employer's office and said, you're going to have to, you know, work with me here.
You see Reverend Hardy's comment.
She took too much time figuring out which gender she was that day.
That's pretty funny.
Probably.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so it's sad. I don't like what this victimhood mentality does to people. So, I mean,
how do you know? Like, when someone cuts you off in traffic, how do you know it's because you're a woman? If someone, you know, slams the door in my face, how do I know it's because I'm black? Like, they're not like, get out of here, blackie, get off the road, woman. Well, I guess you can't slam a door if you're, like, on the road. But, like, those experiences are so few and far between. some people are just jerks. They're not racist, sexist, misogynist. They're just jerks. It's okay.
Yeah.
And sometimes we're the jerk. I've been mean to a cashier or something when I shouldn't have. It wasn't because I didn't like their race or gender or the scar on their face. It's because I was having a bad day and I was being a butthole.
Exactly. And when you recognize, I'm the one that caused that problem and I was the one that was rude to somebody, then you can fix it. But if you're walking around thinking that they're just being rude to me because I'm a woman, that's not something I can fix. I can't change. Well, I guess it depends on who you ask. I can't change that.
And something just went through your head. You're like, oh, well, I can probably change some of these things.
It just
I can
kind of
see.
depends on who.
I can see the commercial. Do you suffer from time blindness? With only 3 easy payments. Like, yeah. We can cure your time blindness so you can see in time.
Well, and I mean, just another random thought going through my head, like, even if I could change from being a woman to something else, if I did change to something else, I would still be a victim. Like, if I went from being a woman to being a man, then I would be victimized because I'm not a woman anymore, but I don't look enough like a man, or I'd be victimized because I'm trans. So there's like no escaping it.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Well, I guess it would benefit a straight white Christian male because they're the worst, Oh. But if they change genders, that would open victimhood up to them. I think. I'm not really good at intersectionality, I'll be honest. I get confused, which is how I know it's bullcrap. I'm a smart guy. I'm a well-educated guy. And I can't follow all of the stuff. And every day something new comes out. And I'm like, what is this?
Yeah. Oh, I'm right there with you. I'm like, no wonder you guys are so angry. None of this makes any sense. I'd be angry and frustrated all the time too if this was my belief system.
So I pulled up the Piers Morgan. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just reading Reverend Hardy Lloyd saying, I get crap dumped on me a lot because my views are extreme, but I always try to figure out how to cope and how to fix it. Modern folks want everything handed to them. And then I'm lazy sometimes, but I still try to work hard. The only way you excel, even under discrimination, is to work harder. Amen.
Yep. Can't even add to that. That's true.
All right. Well, we've got another one here, and this is a conversation between Piers Morgan and somebody that I don't know, but yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of his, but this is something that I rail against all the time. So when I saw this, I was like, I want to see if she wants to put it in the show.
Yeah.
All right.
Respect, would you look into the face of a man that has just lost his wife and is really struggling to play the role of the mother and the father and say that to him? So you're not a mother.
He's the father.
That child.
Well, you might be more sensitive in those circumstances.
You still call him a father.
He's playing the role of the mother because...
That was me. I'd be a father. I wouldn't suddenly morph into a mother.
Again, with respect, to mother and to father are not gender specific.
They are gender specific.
No, they're not.
Why are we pretending otherwise?
Skills
of course
to
they're
mother
gender
and
specific.
to father
No,
can be acquired.
Are you a woman?
Well, yes, I am a woman. Are you a man?
So can I suddenly say, you can just literally say, I'm a woman?
I am a woman, but I'm also capable of the skills it takes to father a child. Similarly, you are a man, and you are capable of the skills to mother a child. I would hope. I'm not sure, though, because nurturing, caring, is that in your capabilities?
I brought up 4 kids very well, but they've always known who their dad is and who their mum is. What's wrong with that?
But the skill to mother is something that a man can also do. With respect.
So what is it that you rail on constantly? I want to hear your thoughts first.
I am in a number of Signal chats with a lot of law enforcement, special ops, maybe an agency person or two, almost exclusively men, and then a couple of all Christian men chats. And whenever these guys do this, I'd jump down their throat about it. I don't care if they have 1 kid or 10 kids. They'll be like, oh, wife's going out of town, so I'm playing Mr. Mom. I'm mom for the weekend. No, you're freaking not. If my wife dies, leaves the country, goes out of town for 3 days, falls ill, I'm still dad. I can't be mom. Are you kidding? And even if I could, and I don't know how you're going to take this. I mean, these are just facts. I don't really care how you're going to take it. Even if I could, I wouldn't trade being dad for being mom, because being dad, having dad, is empirically more important to the long-term outlook of a child's development. I don't know why it's that way. I'm not saying that men are better than women. I'm saying that children follow the man's lead. If I die, there's little to no chance that my kids will continue going to church as adults. That's what the data says. If my wife dies and I continue going to church, there's an 89% chance that they're going to continue to go. The kids do. Kids love mom. Like, so many of my kids right now, they could give 2 craps about me. They really could. They're like, we got mom. She's everything that we need. But long-term behavior, when it comes to education and income level, age of getting married, children tend to lean towards the age that dad got married versus mom. Don't know why. I don't even know how they can intuit this crap, but that's just what happens. So when your wife leaves town, or if your wife unfortunately dies, you don't become mom. You're still dad. It sucks. But
Yeah.
it's like a weird gender, it's like a weird gender sex change thing. Like, all right, the joy is gone from our house because my wife is a lot more joyful than I am. So I'm going to be, she's 5'2", white North Carolina girl. So this New York City kid who's black and 6'1" is going to do what she's done? There's no way. Your husband can't do what you do. He can't. Yep. We'd suck at it.
And that's fair. And I don't understand why we are so obsessed with making it like men and women are the same, and that moms and dads are the same, and that we don't need like a separate mom or a separate dad, that if you have one parent that they're both mom and dad. I don't understand the obsession with making points like this. Like, I remember hearing this phrase a lot when I was younger, because I have friends that have, grew up in single parent households, and you hear the phrase all the time, like, that parents feel like they're playing both mom and dad. But I don't feel like anybody ever took that to mean like their kid is literally seeing them as their mother and their father. They have a single parent that is that's playing double duty, essentially, that doesn't have a partner, that's fulfilling, every single thing that their kid needs without having a second parent in their life. So they're doing, I wouldn't say twice as much work, because I feel like both parents should be giving like 100% at the same time. But again, it doesn't mean that if you grow up in a single parent household and you just have your mom, that you look at her and you say, would you tell your parent, like if you were going out talking to your peers, would you say, I have a mom and a dad in my home? Like, that's not something you would say if you just had your mom or you just had your dad.
That'd be weird.
And it's not a bad thing. And it's like she makes it out to seem like it's a bad thing to have that opinion, and it's not. It's just reality, and it's not a slam against single parents. It's a little bit ridiculous. I don't understand the obsession.
I think it's more nefarious, because have you ever heard this? Have you ever said this? My husband's out of town for a business trip, so I'm playing dad. I gotta be dad for the weekend. No. It's always mom is a higher thing. It's elevated. It's exalted. It's unattainable. So we have to try. Like, one of my friends. Oh my gosh, I'm not gonna say his name, but I wanted to choke the life out of him, because he was like so stressed out about taking care of, and when they say babysitting, man, you don't babysit your kids. They're your freaking kids. You father them. That's it. I have 4 kids. Like, I'm not a lightweight. My kids are 8, 7, almost 5. Oh, I can't believe she's almost 5. 8, 7, almost 5, and 1. Like, I get it. And I take care of these kids when my wife is gone. My wife leaves the country. It doesn't matter. Like, be a competent parent. Is it different? My kids know things are different when my wife's not here. And when I am out of town or away for whatever, things are different. It's not, she's not like, he's gone, so I gotta play dad and go chop wood. And like, no, just do you and cherish that time. When my wife's gone, my kid, Jordan Peterson, talks about this. A lot of dads physically challenge and physically stretch kids in ways that mom don't. Not because mom can't, but usually men are just more risk tolerant. So you see that guys are more often more likely to play catch with the child, not throwing a ball, to play catch with to throw the child to another person. Usually guys like to do that. And mom's like, oh, no. And it's fun, and we need both. You know, my uncles were doing it to my sister. She split her head on the ceiling. Like, so we need those checks and balances. But when you have the mommy only or the daddy only time, go all out into that parent role. Because like when I just have my kids by myself, I dad hard. Like we do all of the dad things, not the mom things. It's just, I don't know. Yeah.
No, I completely agree with that. Like when you were saying how, you know, dads physically, like they physically challenge children a lot more. I was actually listening to this TED talk. This was from a while ago, but this woman, she was a divorce lawyer, and she was talking about how like the impact on kids and on families in general when dads are no longer in the picture. And you know how much dads kind of get this bad rap. You know, they tend to get the short end of the stick on custody deals and you know, and things like that. And you know, she talked about all these things when it comes to dads, and you know how they push kids' imagination, and they do push them to take more risks, and they, you know, get them out there where, you know, and that's 100% true. My husband definitely he does a lot of things with the kids. I'm like, tell me after you're done so that I know that you did it and nobody died. Like, you know, but those are things that I would never do. I just look at that, and I think when women think like this, but we're like, I can see 10 steps ahead and all of the things that could potentially happen from doing that. And it seems like a really dumb idea, so don't do it. Where dads are like, we're going to do this. It's going to be fine. If somebody splits their head open, that's what stitches are for. So,
yep.
It's a bad thing. Like it's a good thing.
Again, I'm making these statements as Joe Mobley. Samantha doesn't endorse this stuff. I know if she agrees or not, whatever. But like what you're describing, there's so many different examples of, and it's really kind of a biblical thing because it goes back to, in the Hebrew, I'm not going to try and say the phrase because I'm not Ben Shapiro or Dennis Prager. I don't really speak Hebrew well, but the phrase translates to safety in the presence of, and then there's something following it. Most often, safety in the presence of the Father is how it's portrayed in the Old Testament and a few places in the New Testament. But it's that, you know, God goes before me, and having a familiar relationship with God of the universe, like your Father goes before you, and there's safety in that. Talk to anyone who's the child of a police officer, and they feel safety. Now, of course, mom could be that police officer parent, but there's safety in the presence of. And usually dad is bigger, stronger. Usually if something goes bump at the night, it's better for mom to call the police and for dad to start calling out shots, you know, that kind of thing. So how it manifests in the way that children play is your child doesn't even know that they do this, but you see it in gorillas and lions and all biological mammals and humans. I don't think that we're mammals, so humans and animals are different types of things. But anyway, you will see that the children will subconsciously take more risk in the presence of dad than mom. And it's because they feel in their spirit that if I go over the edge of the cliff, dad can rescue me. Not that mom can't. Mom has all the awesome catches and child saves on YouTube that dad has. But for some reason, we feel safe in the presence of the father. And that opens us up to risk. When children there's some studies that say, I think it's when children prepubescent lose their dad, their life choices, and mom doesn't remarry before the end of puberty. So I think that's like 26 for dudes. Their life is far less risk tolerant. They take much safer jobs. They don't really do law enforcement, military. They do like finance, and they do boring and safe stuff.
Yeah.
That's why. So anyway, this woman, she's the worst.
I mean, yeah, no, but if you were listening to her talk, she was trying to make the case that a woman or a man can be both mom and dad. But as she's talking to Piers Morgan, she said, she's trying to make this case, but then she catches herself and she's like, well, I don't know, like nurturing. Are you nurturing? Could you be a mom? And it's like she reveals right there that she understands looking at Piers Morgan, he's a man. He's not going to have those nurturing qualities. He's not.
Men are not as nurturing as women.
No, and it's
my kids have never even met you, but if they were hurt and you and I were there, they'd rather go to you.
Well, I mean, the funny thing is like I don't consider myself to be a particularly nurturing person. My husband is actually a lot more patient with stuff like that than I am. I'm like, walk it off, like rub some dirt on it, you're fine. But I still think like inherently, like when kids want that comfort, when they get hurt, when there's something bothering them, when it's like an emotional, they will still come to their mother. They'll still come to me more kind of for that connection and just to kind of work through that problem. Whereas if they want to wrestle, if they want to throw things around, if they want to make a bunch of noise, like they know that's all their dad. And both sides of it are needed in the home, and one is not superior to the other. I just hate
kind of why you need both. It's kind of why you need both. There's a crazy idea. One man, one woman. Yeah.
I know. It's wild to me, but
well, this is quite the gender bender. Do we want to do the other? The other one's pretty gendery too. I just thought it was funny because that lady's eyes. She's like, oh man.
Yeah, I will let you decide.
I would cut the mountain lion. I just thought that was kind of funny to see. Here we can.
Oh, the trans thing.
How many female members of the NBA do you see?
Well, I can say that, there's been this news article about men that think that they could beat Serena Williams in tennis, right? That they think that they could actually score a point on her. And it's just not the case. She is stronger than that.
What's your experience?
Both Serena and Venus lost to the 203rd ranked male tennis player, which they're phenoms for women.
How many female members?
Can I pause it on this lady's face?
Well, I can say that, there's been this news article about men that think that they could beat Serena Williams in tennis, right? That they.
Yeah.
Like, why do they? Is it the SSRIs that make them look like this? It's not a black thing. I don't. Do I have glasses? Oh, I do have glasses.
I saw this hearing earlier, and I keep watching it, and I have to wonder because Senator Kennedy, it's Kennedy, right? He has spitting image. You guys look the same.
I just need some braids.
Yeah. Oh, that's a scary woman. But I've seen this interaction back and forth, and he asks her name is Kelly Robinson, I think, about Serena Williams and competing against males. And she brings up this article saying, well, that was a false article. They, proved it wrong. And then Kennedy, immediately goes to Raleigh Gaines, and she had that fact just off the top of her head. Did he know beforehand that was going to pop up? Because it was too perfect.
People think that you can memory hole stuff. It's very hard to memory hole stuff in the age of the internet and VPNs, but it is a fact. Happened in real life, even though Serena says that she doesn't remember. She says, oh, did that happen? Oh, I forgot about that. I have a terrible memory. The internet remembers. You both lost. Not only did he beat both of them, they were ranked 10 and 23 in the world at the time. They were much younger, and he played them back to back. While one of them rested, he just played the next one, and he was drinking beer and smoking cigarettes in between serves. Nothing against these two tremendous, fabulous athletes. Couldn't be prouder of them. And I'm not usually the race person, but I am proud of the contributions that they have brought to the arena of black athletes. Tremendously talented because of their work, not because of the color of their skin. But men are biologically different. We have biological advantages, which means that some things are easier for us, like jumping. If you Google vertical jumps and the differences between men and women, they're not laughable. It's just, that's what they are. We're just different. Our muscle tissue is different. Our tendons and our ligaments are different thicknesses. And it doesn't matter if we're athletes. Just when we're going through puberty, what's connecting my bones, tissues, and muscles is just tougher than what connects my wife's.
Yeah.
It's whatever. We're just, sorry, go ahead.
Again, I'm sorry, I just keep interrupting you. It must be my white privilege, but it's astonishing that we keep having to have these conversations. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, we didn't have to talk about this. We didn't have to verbalize the fact that men and women are different. We all just knew that was the reason these sports categories were separated, that they had different divisions separated for men and women by weight classes and experience. And I mean, we just all understood that was necessary for there to be fairness in these sports. And we all knew, and without discussion, without having to acknowledge it openly, that the reason there were separate women's categories is because of our biological differences. It's not a matter of superiority. It's not a matter of being less than, but it's just the fact that if you want women to have the same opportunities as men, then we needed things like Title IX. We needed these protected spaces. We needed these protected opportunities. And it's astonishing to me that we keep having to repeat the fact that men and women are different. And I feel like every time we have to have this conversation, what message is that sending to little girls and to future, athletes that are young women and teenagers, that we constantly have to remind them that they weren't born inferior, that they weren't born as less than, that being a woman doesn't make you, less qualified to be an elite athlete. I feel like you just kind of have to keep reminding them that, this doesn't mean that you're less than, it doesn't mean that you're less capable or that you're less deserving. It's just, I don't get it. I don't
really
think I'm ever
stupid.
going to having to point this out. How do you convince people that changing your name or growing your hair out suddenly makes you the same as a biological man? How does that happen?
And again, there's not this big movement of trans men crushing sports. That's not happening.
Did you see the article that the NCAA, I think it's the NCAA, is now banning transgender women biological males from competing against women now?
No, but that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good for them. Wow.
And we need to remind people that this is not a ban on trans athletes, because that's, of course, the way some of the left was spinning it, that they're banning transgender people from competing altogether. And it's just saying, no, if you're a biological male, you cannot compete against women. And I think they even floated the idea of coming up with a third category for transgender athletes. And I honestly think the second that they do that, you're going to see the number of transgender women, you're going to see that plummet, because there's no incentive now. They can't go in there and take these titles and these opportunities and these medals and trophies away from women.
Scholarship money, freaking. Yep. I hope there are a lot of lawsuits. I hope Riley Gaines sues, because their window of opportunity is gone. It's small for these young, college and young adult athletes, and their careers, their not franchise. What are those things called? Like endorsement and sponsorship deals and all that stuff. They've been majorly screwed. Mm-hmm. In the name of women's rights, but it's like, but they're not. They're not women. Oh my gosh. It'd be bad if they were making black leagues, white leagues, Hispanic leagues again. But having women's leagues and men's leagues is good. And Josh Hawley, Ted Cruz, Senator Kennedy, senator after senator has asked in hearing after hearing, why do we have gender-specific sports leagues? And none of these crazies, let's pull her back up, none of these crazies want to answer, because they know, because there's biological differences. That's why we have, we don't want 7-foot men playing with 6-foot women in basketball. That would be weird.
Well, yeah, well, and that's the funny thing. And whenever you try to engage with people about these conversations and you ask them a basic question, like, okay, so why do we have women's sports? Why do we have sports that are just for females? And I think actually in this hearing, they did ask this Kelly Robinson, the goggle eyes over here. They did ask her, and she's, started to say, well, there's a benefit to having sports. There's a benefit to being an athlete. And of course, I think it was Ted Cruz that was like, okay, so you're not going to answer that, because that's not an answer. Because like, even if, they didn't separate the categories and we had men and women playing on the same teams and, being teammates and whatnot, that would be dangerous for women. But ultimately, it would always be men winning those awards and those opportunities. And that's what we're talking about here. Like you just said, we're talking about the scholarships, and we're talking about the opportunities to perhaps, compete at a national level and go to the Olympics and all of these things. It's like, these women aren't doing it just to be on a team and play a game. They're doing it for the for the opportunities, for the scholarships, for the sponsorships. Like, this is their career. So again, it's trying to minimize things like that.
I wanted so badly before she retired. Is it Megan Rapinoe? Is that her name? Soccer player. I wanted so badly for her to get cut and replaced by a man. Just to see what she'd say.
Yeah. I was actually, just a little side note, I was telling my husband about this earlier. I don't typically engage with people on Twitter. Like, I get a lot of trolls that comment on stuff, and I think, you get to a point where you're like, I know this is not even worth it. But I was bored at work today. So
me too.
Yeah, I know. So we know who Chloe Cole is. She went through this whole transition process starting at the age of 11. She had a double mastectomy at the age of 16. She, travels around the country testifying, to keep these surgeries from being made available to 18-year-olds and all of these things, this big transgender activist. She's also suing her doctors because of what they allowed her to do as a minor. But she tweeted saying that her doctors told her that she could if she had this double mastectomy, that this surgery would make her a man. And somebody tweeted or replied and said, yeah, no doctor is telling anybody that. And I think the trick in these conversations is not to argue, but to get somebody else to defend their point. And I'm like, okay, so would you, if doctors were telling young women that they could become a man or a boy by having a double mastectomy, would you be against that? It's like, if you are saying that it's not happening, and if you're saying that this is, that this idea is repulsive to you, or you're against it in some way, are you saying that if it were happening, would you be against it? And just like, Kelly Robinson here, she's not answering questions, she's dodging the question. Of course, this person, all they know how to do is dodge questions and just kind of avoid the subject. And it's like, what do you believe? What do you think? What is your core foundation here? Do you believe that having a surgery is going to change your sex? Do you believe that it's possible to switch from being a male to a female, or vice versa? And you can never get a straight answer from these people. And it's astonishing.
Well, it's dangerous for them to state an objective fact, because they know that their team can change facts. And they know that they might be able to change to the new facts, but if they get caught and the spotlight shines on their statement yesterday that was acceptable, and now it's today, it's a new day, it's a new truth, they know that it's game over for them.
Well, do they really care though? I mean, because they say that they are this against election denial, yet there's all of, they're all denying elections. So does it really matter? I mean, they can say what they believe one day and change it the next day, and they'll just tell you that the thing they said yesterday didn't actually happen.
Well, when it comes to crimes versus like cultural power, that's one of the things that makes me concerned for the health of the country. Because whenever there's a truly oppressive regime, or an oppressive regime is bubbling up, is brewing, one of the early signs, and again, just a guy here that knows some stuff about history, not an expert, you can take it or leave it, folks. But if I've looked at a lot of rise and falls of nations, empires, whatever, when one group can commit crimes with impunity and the other group is usually the true oppressors, or the true oppressed, when they are like charged and brutally punished for those same types of things, even if they didn't do it, like they're trying to do to Donald Trump, that's one of the signs. Not saying that, the country's going to explode, but that is one of the signs that things are irreparably damaged. And even worse, when the one side is celebrated for breaking these laws or committing these crimes, doing these things, and then the other group is actually like punished for it. That's it's always been close to the end. So who knows what's gonna happen?
Jesus, put on sandals and get down here.
Put on your sandals. You think he's a barefoot guy in heaven? Yeah, I like to wear shoes.
Yeah, who needs shoes?
Yeah. You think Jesus wears socks with the sandals now? I don't know.
Probably not. That would be unforgivable.
Yeah. It's in now. The kids, they wear socks with their slip-ons now.
That's how we know that things are irreparable, that there's no... We're too far gone.
Yeah. I don't think we have to do these last two unless you want to.
Did you want to show the mountain lion with the gun? I thought that was kind of funny.
All right,
you can if you want to. Just real quick.
Yeah, I mean, this spoke to me because my family and friends had an encounter with the mountain lion in southwestern Oklahoma. And even I had my gun and I was still like, oh, let's get in the car. But I mean, another reason to carry a gun, folks.
Right?
Get back.
What would have happened to this guy if he didn't have a pistol?
Oh my gosh.
Cute cat, though.
Here, kitty. Here.
Look at how camouflage. People don't realize how camouflage a solid color animal is. But a lion, a mountain lion, these kinds of like solid color, and like right now, look at how camouflage the animal is, and it's like they just crouch down in this brush and they can really disappear. Like, look at that.
That is wild. I mean, I'm sure that he could have handled it had he been a social worker.
Or like a drag queen or whatever. Yes, Reverend Hardy, that is a mountain lion for sure. And look at the restraint of this guy. Oh man, I can't get a scroll. So if you know anything about how these animals attack, when wildcats attack their prey, they get as close as they can, whether they're sprinting or just walking like this. But they turn their paws inward and they bound on their back legs, and they really like thrash and crush things. So they want to paw you hard and scratch and tear flesh out at the same time. And so the cat's left paw, like right when he pulls the trigger at exactly the right moment, because the cat does the bounding thing. It turns, you can see the left paw turn sideways, and like it doesn't know what a gun is.
Get back.
So it says in the comments that he didn't shoot it.
Well, I mean, I would not have been overly sad had the cat been hit. I mean, if this animal's coming towards you, shoot. If you happen to hit it, it is what it is. But I mean, these things are powerful. I went to Mexico probably 2 years ago, and they had like this, I don't know what it was. They had this like hotel thing. I don't know. They had a bunch of stuff in, and we went, and they had these little baby tigers, and you could like pay to hold the baby tiger.
Did you go to Tiger King?
No. But I held this little baby tiger, and you look at it and it's so fuzzy and cute, but those things are powerful. Like, I can't even imagine a full-grown animal like this. And I mean, even when you're talking about how their claws function, I mean, you can see that we have 2 cats, and you can see, they're kind of mini versions of that, but they'll grab with like their front claws and turn their paws in and grab you, and then they'll start tearing with their back paws. I mean, they're playing, but like it's you don't want to be caught in their clutches.
Just look how just strong and powerful these things are. Like, yeah.
Yep.
That's why we've got these that's why we use our brains. And if you're using your brain and you're out there hiking, carry a gun, which that guy's never going to go hiking without a gun. He's going to be like, remember what happened last time?
Yeah. Well, or just don't go hiking at all. Stay safe. Stay inside.
We were like in or around the wildlife refuge, and I kid you not, we're there in Oklahoma, and we hiked. It was like something called like pear or something. It was like this rock face thing that was like shaped like a pear, and like we hiked all day, big group of us, a bunch of soldiers, like my whole Bible study group. But we get back down in the bottom, and we stop at this picnic table, and our cars are like, we're back to the parking lot, so our cars are like 20, 30 feet away. And I'm like an idiot. I'm wearing this like high vis yellow jacket because I don't know, I'm that guy on the hike. And I I just had that sense like something was looking at me, and I just looked up, and I looked right at this mountain lion. It was like perched on a rock. It wasn't creeping, it was sitting like a house cat, like just like sitting there staring at us. And I was like, my heart just stopped. It's like, what the F? And I was just like, hey, let's all get up and get in our cars right now. And I didn't tell my wife that there was a mountain lion until we were in the car, and it was still there. I'm like, look, there's a freaking mountain lion over there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, scared the crap out of me.
Yeah, I think I remember years and years, and this is just a quick story, just years and years ago, I was little. We were from Canada, and we used to go to Calgary and Banff all the time. So we went to Banff, and if you don't know Banff, you should. It's beautiful. I mean, the mountains are incredible. But I think my mom and my dad and a couple of our other relatives had gone on a hike, and for whatever reason, my sister and I didn't, but they came back and said that on the hike down, just not too far in the trees, is this big bear just eating, the whatever. And my dad, of course, this is what men do. They've got to push the limits. They got to take the risk. We're sitting here back going, no, you're going to die. And you're like, no, it's fine. He got up really like close and took a picture of this bear. And I'm like, when he got back, they're telling us the story, and I'm a little kid thinking this is all cool. But of course, when they went to get the film developed and we saw how close he was to this bear, I'm like, why would you do that?
Not cool.
No.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the difference between moms and dads right there. My mom's like,
yeah,
get back here. Get back here. That's like just a little closer.
I wasn't a dad yet. My wife was pregnant with our first son, and I was terrified. I did not want to get closer to this thing. A bear, though? Bear's no joke. Your dad. That could have gone sideways.
Real fast. Anyway, well, that I think is it for tonight, guys. I appreciate everybody joining the conversation. It's always fun. We always have like the most random, collection of topics to cover.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. No, don't give mountain lions catnip. That's a bad idea.
I wonder if they'd respond the same way. I don't know. You need a lot of catnip.
What if they turned into a super mountain lion? That could just be bad. What do you do if you don't have a gun? You just like play dead, or do you just like bang sticks together
and pray? I don't know. That's why I don't do nature.
Yeah. I like nature. Yeah.
It's scary. Yeah.
Well, thanks for letting me come on your show and be the Black community representative. But I have like 10 other shows to do because, those Black quotas, we got to do so much now.
I know. Somebody else needs you to be part of their meeting.
You know what happened yesterday? No joke. I got invited to be on a board. And I immediately thought of you.
Are you?
Yeah.
What board?
A really good group, an anti-human trafficking group headquartered in Washington, D.C. Yeah, I'm probably going to do it, but I just immediately thought of you. I'm like, oh, the boards are coming. Yeah.
I never get asked to be on boards.
I'm a human trafficking expert, though. Well, at least I was in a past life. I got out of the game in 2020. Yeah. Huh.
All right. Well, I appreciate everybody coming on tonight and having a conversation with us. We will be back next week at the same time, 7:30 Central Time, 8:30 Eastern Time, with another collection of random topics to cover. It just depends on what's happening by then.
Yeah.
Yep.
Bye.
All right.